look up to the mountains. Does my strength come from the mountains? No. My strength comes from God, who made heaven and earth and the mountains. When confusion's my companion and despair holds me for ransom, I will feel no fear. I know that you are near. When caught deep in the valley with chaos for my company, I find my comfort here, 'cause I know that you are near. My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my weakness, my sickness, my brokenness, all on your shoulders. Your shoulders. My help comes from you. You are my rest, my rescue. I don't have to see to believe that you're lifting me up on your shoulders. Your shoulders.
Hi guys, and welcome to Youth Alpha tonight. Isaiah and Bree are having a night off. They've gone away for the weekend. We've panned back to something else. For those of you, I don't know if you can see that where you are, but the screen's doing all sorts of swirly stuff. All right. Anyway, hopefully that's fixed now. You guys may not know Joel and Abby,
Hello.
so I'm going to get them to say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
And which one of you is Joel and which one of you is Abby?
I'm Abby.
I'm Abby.
Oh. No, my bad.
And this is the first time. So So tell us something about yourselves, because I'm sure that. Does anyone here know who Joel and Abby is?
Just say
All right,
yes.
so-
Say yes.
So there you go. So tell us a bit about yourselves, please.
Well,
We got married 5 months ago,
just
before
COVID.
COVID. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, it is.
And tell me, when you got married, tell us about what did you have at your reception?
KFC.
KFC. So you actually had It was seriously. I married him, and it was the best. One of the best receptions. And what about your wedding cake? What was that? It was a marvelous
It was a
cake.
marble style cake. It had Hulk in the cake.
Yeah, it was sort of like a single layer, then the Hulk was holding up the top layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was 2 layers, the Hulk, then a top layer held up by the Hulk.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Obviously he doesn't.
I was just thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, see me, he's the one who wanted it so badly he can't even remember the fact there was a Hulk in it.
Joel, seriously, man. Well
thinking
done.
the flavours.
I just want to say on behalf of all husbands everywhere, thank you for keeping the bar low.
It's all right.
We
Keep
really
it low,
appreciate
you'll be
that.
set.
Good. And Abby, are you related to any, apart from the obvious Joel, that's why you're not practicing social distancing, are you related to anybody else in the church?
Yes.
Do you want to name names?
So Jasmine's just there.
Yeah, Jasmine. So well, and how are you related to Jasmine?
She's my cousin.
She's your cousin.
Yeah.
All right. See, I was explaining to the Bowman boys before, sorry, that everybody in church seems to be interrelated. Not everybody, but a significant number.
Yes.
So Kynan's marrying
Caitlin,
who is
who's
also
my cousin,
your cousin.
Jasmine's sister.
Jasmine's sister.
Yep.
And then Josh is dating Holly,
Yep.
who is also your cousin. Not Holly, but
Josh, yeah.
Josh. So it's very confusing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, okay. Right, so let me ask you, what is your most embarrassing moment?
Right, do you want to go first or me?
Well, it was a dark time. I mean, I don't know if it's the most embarrassing, but I remember one time I was standing in the class talking in front of everyone, and I was casually standing there looking out, and I started to dribble, like really badly, and everyone just stared and started laughing, and I'm like,
How on earth did you start dribbling?
I don't know. It just,
Seriously?
I was just standing there, and all of a sudden my mouth just started dribbling, and I was like, well, that just happened. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
So, yeah, I just remember a recent one. So, just after we got married, we didn't have a joint account yet. So, he used to take my card if he needed to go somewhere to get something. And I went to the supermarket and I was doing it. It happened to me a few times, actually.
Has it?
But luckily, it only happened once where someone wasn't there with me. It happened with Jazz there with me, so she could help me. My mum was there a few times.
That's
He
actually a
just
really
never
good
gave it
idea.
back.
That is a really good idea. Mum, come shopping with me. Oh, I've left my card at home. Can I? Like, seriously, that is a stroke of genius. It was very intentional, I'm sure. Yeah. What about you? Anyone got an embarrassing? What about the audience of 247? Is there any embarrassment? Oh, come on, you're teenagers. There's got to be lots of embarrassing moments. You might want to. Can you just bring the microphone over?
They've got a microphone.
Oh.
I do? Well, anyway.
Oh, come on, Olivia.
It's only the third week I've given
Yeah, come on, Olivia.
So, I don't remember any. You want it? Yeah, anyway. I don't. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't remember anything. Yeah.
Well, I think what's really embarrassing, Carlin, is that you just embarrassed yourself in front of at least 20 people by not actually doing anything. Well done. Seriously?
Yeah.
You got 3 seconds. That's it? All right. Well done. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that was real great. Look, we forgot we were meant to play video first of all, so that's okay. We'll go to the first video. Thanks, guys.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing all right. I'm at the gym right now. It's early. It's like 5 a.m. But I gotta show you something very rare. It's Ben Woodman on the treadmill. Ben. What? Ben, say hi, everybody.
No, turn the camera. Oh!
You okay, buddy?
No, turn it off.
Dude, I'm gonna post it. Buddy, get back here. That's amazing.
Should I get personal with this?
I was in an x-ray clinic and then I accidentally opened the dressing room curtain when someone was in there changing, and you know, like you're butt naked, you have to wear the robe, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, and then I just like closed it and like ran out.
Okay, so I was at camp when I was like 13, and I'm not a great swimmer, and halfway back I realized, what am I doing? I can't swim. And I went from like this to like this, and then I started sinking, and the hot lifeguard had to like take his shirt off and like dive in and save me, and all the kids were there and they all laughed.
When I broke my nose playing rugby, I hit my own teammate, so.
But one time I was on a date, it was like this really fancy restaurant, the guy was super nice, we like got dessert, and it was so beautiful and great, and then he was talking to me and he said something really funny, and I like spewed food onto him.
I think the most embarrassing thing I can think about is me asking her out and she said no. So
It was the most awkward ride home.
All right. We've already asked that question, but I just remembered my best mate's brother went to Luna Park years and years ago, went on the Big Dipper for the first time. You know the thing there?
Yep.
And as he gets off the Big Dipper, he loses his lunch and just spews all over this lady, just projectile vomits. And poor old Mick, the only thing he had was a handkerchief. And so he's going to this lady, "Oh, lady, I'm so sorry." Yeah.
The other day, actually. My dad was just being disgusting, and I literally just vomited. Just started vomiting because he was just being so gross. And I just started vomiting out of nowhere. And he thinks it's the best thing that's ever happened.
He's so proud of you.
He's so proud that he could get me to vomit just by saying gross things.
It is a skill set that not many people have. We were going home once when the kids were really small, and Karina had just had a strawberry thick shake. And we're literally just turning into the driveway after about 3 hours in the car, and Karina just hurls up this strawberry thick shake. It is the most unpleasant experience to clean up strawberry flavoured spew. Let me assure you that.
Did it smell good or bad? Or
Use your imagination, Joel. Seriously,
I'm just going to imagine good.
All right. No one's. Has anyone answered? I've lost the connection. Has anyone said anything about their most embarrassing? Oh, Matthew's got lots of embarrassing moments in supermarkets. Matthew's going to say something.
So when I when I was in year 7, I went to Malaysia, and we were going up this windy mountain thing to this theme park in a limo, and like I had lost all colour in my face. My stepmom's going, "It's okay, we're almost there." Every bend we went around, we're almost there. And then the last bend, I threw up all over the limo because she just kept saying, "We're almost there," and I believed her.
Serves you right. Never lie to Matthew.
So then, we get to this hotel, and we're trying to find this random restroom somewhere in the lobby so that I could get changed because I was covered in vomit. It was more embarrassing for my stepmom than I. I didn't care.
Yeah, being embarrassed. No one really sticks their hand up and goes, "Who wants to be embarrassed?" We used to, in my youth group days, which is a long time ago now. We used to go up to somebody, and we grab them and we start shaking them and we yell at the top of our lungs, "Joel, don't make a scene! Joel, quit making a scene!" And especially for the girls, and they would just turn this bright beetroot red. So I strongly encourage you to try it sometime.
Noted.
Yeah, like Jasmine, don't make a scene. But make sure that you pick, or calm down. But make sure you pick a really public spot for that, won't you? Because it works really well.
When are we going to the supermarket next?
See, told you, it's working already. All right, we're going to show the next film clip. Thanks, guys.
We've been together for a few weeks now, but I was wondering, have you told anyone that you're doing Alpha, like at your school, or your work, or sports teams? Because this sort of thing can be pretty awkward to bring up with your friends.
Hey, Cal. Oh, hey, Bill. You got any plans this coming Wednesday night? Oh, Wednesday, you say? Yeah, I got this thing with a couple of friends. We eat some food, and then there's a video, and then we talk, and
Even if you're confident in what you believe, it can still feel pretty awkward talking about this with other people. And that can bring up questions like, should I tell others about Jesus? And is it okay to talk about this kind of stuff? And if it is, how do I even bring it up?
Some people think that things like faith should be private, that it's fine to believe it for yourself, but you shouldn't push it on others or even talk about it.
Yeah, but that's interesting because everyone who's become a Christian must have heard about Jesus from someone. So why tell other people about Jesus?
First, it's because Jesus tells us to. Jesus was always saying to people, go and tell, go and invite. I have come that you might have life. Go and make disciples.
Another reason is that the message of Jesus meets a very real need in people's hearts. Imagine you're stranded on a desert island with your friend, and you wander off and you stumble upon water and fruit. The first thing you do is run back to your friend and tell them that you found food and water.
There's a spiritual hunger and thirst in every human heart. And in a way, it's like people are walking around in a desert looking to satisfy that hunger. So the most loving thing we can do is to tell people the amazing news about Jesus. He's the one that ultimately fulfills our spiritual hunger.
A relationship with Jesus brings peace and joy. It brings meaning and purpose to our lives. God fills our hearts with love, He forgives us and offers us eternal life. And that's the good news we get to share with people. And telling people good news is the best. People always share awesome things, like that video that I shared of Ben that already has 20,000 views.
What video?
Yeah, we do this all the time with all sorts of things.
What video?
Bro, mobile phone. It's the future. It's not gonna get any smaller than this. Look, you can hardly even see it in my pocket. You gotta buy one, dude. I'm telling you, it's the future. Why walk when you could hug? I'm telling you, Cal, you have got to try the Netflix. Nothing has made a more positive impact in my life than Netflix.
How? Where do I sign up?
On the internet.
When I first started following Jesus, I was so passionate to tell other people about it. I remember this one time when I was trying to tell my friend Chanel, and I was being really pushy and insensitive, and it didn't go very well. After a few times of being rejected like that, my boldness disappeared and it turned into fear.
Yeah, I struggle with fear sometimes. Like, I remember this one time I was at school. I was sitting with some friends, and someone asked me, could you please tell me why you're a Christian? And this was like my chance. That was the perfect setup. But I was so afraid I'd say something wrong that I froze.
And I think that's what can happen for a lot of people. We swing from insensitivity to fear.
But it doesn't have to be that way.
So how do we share our faith?
We want to look at a few different ways that we tell others about Jesus.
First, we tell others through our actions. The love that we show in practical ways can point people to the love of Jesus. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven.
I was a crack addict in jail, in a lot of trouble, in a prison cell. And while I was there, a Salvation Army lady came to my jail cell just to kind of visit me. And I remember when I saw her coming, I was like, oh, great, you know, here comes the church and here comes a lecture and I should know better and what am I doing with my life and all those sort of things. And she didn't say any of that thing. She just came in, wrapped her arms around me. She said, I love you. I mean, it was awkward because I was not wrapping my arms around her. Like, I was like hard-hearted. I was just like ticked off and drugged. I was high. And when she left, I remember the door closing, you know, the clang of the prison door. And then God showed up in my cell. He did the same thing. He wrapped his arms around me and he whispered in my ear, I love you. And it was genuinely the first time I realized that God was for me and not against me, and that he wasn't mad or angry or distant or disappointed, you know. And there is something something happened, and I can't even really describe it, except the best way that I can describe it is that somebody turned on a light. What I didn't know, which would change my life forever, was that God could use me to save someone else. When I connected those two things, just everything changed, because then I realized that this faith that I'm living is not just about me. I've been part of the Salvation Army for 22 years, and, you know, the founder of the Salvation Army is William and Catherine Booth, and, you know, part of his, like, gospel message to the whole church, I think, was that, you know, Christianity is practical. You know, like, so he used to say, you really can't preach to a man with an empty stomach. because good news, this like good news of the gospel actually should be tangible. So I usually say to people who are beginning, like, what's in front of you to do? Like, what are you passionate about? Like, who's around you? Do you even know? Like, sometimes the first step is just to like find out. I know a 14-year-old kid who sat next at lunch to a kid whose family was filing for bankruptcy. And he was really, he didn't know that at the time, but he wasn't eating lunch. And so the 14-year-old kid just felt like he would share his lunch with him and just gave him his lunch every day. And, he'd come home from school just like starving, and his mom's like, you're just nonstop eating. But what he was really doing was giving his lunch away every day to this kid, not asking any questions, not just like shoving it across the thing and then having a conversation about the day. And eventually this kid confided in the 14-year-old and said, actually, this has been the hardest season of my life. And I've been thinking about like taking my life, like this has just been, and every day you show me that someone's looking out for me and someone cares about me. And so like all that transpired with like an awkward 14 boy at high school, awkward. It's not like a super cool kid, but just shoving his tray towards somebody who is alone. And he was able to pray with him and tell him more about how God loved him and would never leave him. Because if you can understand who you are, then that's the gospel, isn't it? This is the Jesus showing up in dark places saying, no, God hasn't forgotten you. It's not too late. You matter to the world because I designed you, I made you, I love you, I can free you. What do you need? That's the essence of the gospel, and it's beautiful.
Why not? Everyone should preach about their faith. I think every religion should spread awareness and,
Oh yeah, if the other person is okay with it.
Yeah, I think that's totally okay. I think it matters how you do it. I think it's not so great when you try and force your beliefs or your religion or your faith onto others.
It's almost like Yelp, like people go on Yelp and share their experience. So I feel like you can do the same thing with religion. And I check Yelp,
You should be able to talk about whatever you want to talk about with your peers and your friends. If you're good friends, then why not? Or to anyone.
Everybody has their own story, and I think everybody should share it.
If, for example, I was a gymnast and I told you that I'm a gymnast, same way you could tell me you're a Christian. If I'm interested, I'm going to ask you myself.
I feel like the best witness that people have made to me is how they're living their life and the relationship that they have with God and their family. And I think that life speaks for itself.
There you go. So what do you guys reckon? Is it okay or not to talk about our faith to others? Why or why not?
You can go first if you want. Okay.
Yeah, you should have gone first. Just gone, yes, dear.
Okay. Well, yes, I think it is okay, and I feel like it does help people. Like, if you talk to them and just be kind to them and listen, and like it can, like in heaps of ways, just knowing that there's someone else out there looking out for you, like he's there, he's watching you, can help a lot of people. And I feel like people, when they're in really tough times and someone can mention the word of God, it helps them, if that makes any sense.
So you're sort of saying that the message actually helps people through some tough times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it can be awkward sometimes to talk to people about it, but it's not just like you have to go and be like, tell them everything in one go. Okay. Like, like you can gradually, if you see them here and there, like just bring it up, like hearing like little bits to try and help them. Like you don't want to make them feel like you're bombarding them with all this Christian talk and stuff like that, if that makes sense. But like...
So you're saying do it sensitively, not just go spew over them?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it could end up like wearing strawberry spew, couldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't want Christian spew all over you, but you still want them enough to go, hey, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And enough for them to then get interested and want to ask questions and want to know more, instead of just being like saying all this stuff and then just being like, what was just said? Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you got to be wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you covered it.
Just yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
Hey, can I put you on the spot though, Joel?
Yeah.
Because I know the answer to this. And how did you become a Christian?
Well, like obviously, I haven't always like.
Because
believed
you aren't from a religious family, were you?
No, I was sort of always drilled in my head that God wasn't real and that I pretty much shouldn't be religious in any way. And so it was hard for me growing up to sort of think to myself that God was real and anything like that. And then one day, Abby sort of just looked at me and said, "Would you like to come to church with me?" And weirdly enough, for the first time ever, sort of went, "Yeah, I think I will." And
that wasn't just the power of the hormone, though, was it?
No, I just genuinely felt like it was sort of the right thing to do. So I went with it, and the more I had sort of come and learnt about God, the more I was sort of believing in it and sort of embracing what I was hearing.
So it was a gradual process?
Yeah, it was a gradual process, but like, because obviously at first I was a little bit sort of unsure how I was going to feel, and then later down the track, like as we went on, I sort of became a lot more comfortable and really just understood things on a better perspective than I did originally.
Yeah. So what was your first impressions going to the church? Because it'd be pretty scary, especially if you've got no church background.
I mean, I was sort of like, because most of the people I knew that I hadn't gone to church before, so I didn't know what they were gonna say and stuff like that. But everyone was really welcoming, and I think in a matter of no time, I was pretty comfortable being there, and yeah, it was a good first time. Yeah, made me want to come back, and now I'm still here. So,
we're not really, it's COVID, so no one's here.
well, I mean,
yeah, but you will be back. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. It's really funny. As a Baptist minister, when people find out that you're a minister, they treat you differently. When I first started studying for the ministry, which was a long time ago now, Sandy and I were camping, and we were in the camp kitchen. I was in the camp kitchen cooking, and this young woman starts cooking next to me, and we start talking, and the conversation goes around. What do you do? I said, "Oh, look, I can't tell you because the moment I tell you, you'll freak out and you won't talk to me." She goes, yeah, and she's probably thinking I'm a Russian spy or something like that. and so we're cooking away, and I say, "Well, actually, I'm training to be a Baptist minister." And literally, she looks at me and goes, "Oh," and walked away. It's true. A couple of years ago, Callum and I, my son and I, we went to China on a big bus tour. And I think Callum and I, we got on really well, and we were joking and mucking around for the entire time that we were there. And about 3/4 away through the trip, someone says to me, "Hey, Chris, we've never asked you, what is it that you do for a living?" And I go, "You really don't want to ask me that because yeah. I'm a Baptist minister." And suddenly the conversation stops. And I had to go, "You don't know what to do, how to process that information, do you?" I said, "No, I don't know what to do with it." Because being religious and taking your faith seriously nowadays in our culture, I think is so rare that people don't know what to do. And I know, look, when I talk to people, even now, and I mean, I get paid to talk to people about Jesus, but I'm terrified. I'm frightened of saying something offensive, because the message of Christianity is, I think, offensive, because we're saying you're wrong and you need to get your life right with God. I'm frightened of being cancelled. Yeah. It's weird. What do you guys reckon? Is it right or wrong to talk to people about Jesus? Rachel?
So, I don't know. So, it's, why? Because someone needs to learn, people need to, people need to somehow know about Jesus. So I guess.
Do you reckon it's easy talking to people about Jesus?
No, not a bit, no.
No, that's the scary part, isn't it? I think if you're a Christian, we all go, hey, we need to talk to people about Jesus, but the moment the opportunity comes, what happens?
Well, I think it's just sort of like you don't know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Like some people are sort of looking like, I don't believe in any of that, and they get really offended or even can get really angry.
Stroppy,
You sort of sit there and go, are they going to get mad or are they going to be okay with it? I don't know whether to talk to them about it or not. And
Yeah.
it can be pretty awkward.
It's kind of just, I'll open up the door and see what's behind this door.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's either a bear or a little bird or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And you just don't know what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, like, it can just be thrown in your face because you can be, like, just trying to talk to someone and then they can start yelling at you and getting really upset with you because, like, they're not ready to hear it. They don't want to hear it yet. So, like, with some people, it can also be, like, you need to wait for the right time. Otherwise, they're never going to want to hear it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. All right. We might go to the next video, eh?
Hey, what is this? It's just, you know what? Come on, man. Don't worry about it. The second way that we tell others is by giving good reasons to believe in Jesus. When the Apostle Paul was teaching about Jesus, Scripture says that he reasoned with people. He explained the message and he made a case for faith in Christ. 1 Peter says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. One of the best ways we can show gentleness and respect is by listening to people. Most people aren't really ready to listen until they've first been heard themselves. And it's so important that as we listen that we genuinely want to know what people think. It's a mark of respect. I've heard it said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
And I always like to say that even though people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, you can still tell them what you know while you're showing them how much you care, so that when they know how much you care, they will care even more how much you know, because the most important thing they should know is that you care.
That was awesome, man. You should put that on a bumper sticker.
Ben thought this was a fantastic idea, but he soon realized the bumper sticker market was a bit more stop and go than he expected. And it didn't help that the competition was great at proclaiming their message.
The third way we tell others is by proclaiming the good news. Matthew's gospel says Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom.
The word gospel literally means good news. It's an announcement about who Jesus is and what he's done. It's the announcement that God loves you. You can be forgiven and have a relationship with him.
It's the best news that anyone could ever hear. Oftentimes, the way that people first hear the gospel is by personal invitation.
Yeah, that's what Jesus did. He told people, if you're interested, come and see. And then when they followed him, those same people told their friends, you've got to come and see. And that might be why you're doing Alpha. Maybe one of your friends invited you to come and see, to come and explore this stuff for yourself.
Now, this is what we see in the beginning of John's gospel. Andrew, one of the disciples, was invited by Jesus to come and see. Then the first thing that he did was go and find his brother Peter and invite him to meet Jesus too.
And here's what's cool. Peter became one of the most influential people in the history of the world. He was the leader of the early church, and you just have to come to Rome, to St. Peter's Square, to see signs of his impact.
Now, not all of us can do what Peter did, but we can all do what Andrew did. Invite people to come and see, to meet Jesus for themselves.
My family was always super protective. So when I moved to Vancouver, I was introduced to, and studying university, I was introduced to alcohol and cigarettes and parties and clubbing. I love people and I love having friends, and they noticed this. And so what they did was they asked me if they just pretty much hired me to bring people into the clubs. And then I'll bring, I don't know, anywhere between 20 to 100 people on the weekends. But I was super passionate about it because that was life for me. I love the club. I love feeling like I was part of a community. My dad actually started going through really, really bad depression. He went through several times where he wanted to actually commit suicide. somebody that knew him said, "Hey Jorge, like I know that you're going through all of this, and I don't know if this will be of help at all, but there's this thing called the Alpha Course, and why don't you just give it a try?" And my dad had never been to church before, but somehow he actually took that invitation and said yes. He gave his life to Christ. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. He sat at our table and he said, "Listen, you guys, I just want to talk to you. I have received forgiveness from God, and I would actually love to ask for forgiveness from you." And he asked my mom for forgiveness, and he moved back to our home that day. And he was completely transformed. He was a different person, full of light. My dad actually said, "Dory, I really want you to try going to church." And actually, it was one Monday night, I was invited to the Alpha Course, and I was in the back because I was very skeptical. And for the first time, I was like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if I lifted my hands to God and said, "I love you" for the first time. And so I was like, well, nobody's looking, so I can do it. And I lifted my hands to God, and I said, "God, I love you. I need you." And right away, I just felt the love of God go from my head to my toes, all over. And I just felt that I was loved for the first time in my life. The week after I encountered God, I was like, why didn't anybody tell me about this? And why am I not telling other people about this? I have to. So I remember I went into my office and I started inviting everybody. Like I was like, you have to come to church. And my brother's younger than me, so I said, like, Jorge, you just need to try it. You need to come. And he came, and he was touched by God, and he was completely transformed by the love of God. And then later, that same year, my mom came, and she was also completely transformed by God. And then after that, my parents went to Miami to see my grandparents, and there they took my grandparents to a church, and they gave them their life to Christ, and all because of one invitation. So that's where I find my courage, just in thinking, because somebody invited my dad to a relationship with God, I am now completely transformed. So why wouldn't I invite somebody else?
John 9 tells the story of a blind man who encountered Jesus and was totally healed. People were amazed and asked him all kinds of questions. Who healed you? Where is he now? How did he do it? How do I find him? But he didn't have all the answers. He simply told them what Jesus had done in his life. He said, all I know is that I once was blind and now I see. It's the same for you and I. You don't need to have every answer to every question to share your personal story of how Jesus has impacted your life.
Yeah, and as your friends see the difference that Jesus has made in your life, it sets the stage to have conversations about the gospel. And seeing our friends experience God's love is one of the most exciting things. The fourth and fifth part of telling others is the power of the Holy Spirit and prayer. In 1 Thessalonians, Paul wrote, our gospel came to you not simply with words, but also with power, with the Holy Spirit, and with deep conviction.
So, telling others is not only about words or intellectual arguments, it's about an experience of the Holy Spirit, an experience of God's love being poured into our hearts.
Yeah, and ultimately it's God who transforms lives, and that's why prayer is such an essential part of telling others. My friend Tara inspires me by the way she prays for her friends. She had this piece of paper she kept folded up in her pocket, and I remember I saw her open it up one time and it was covered in names. It was the names of all of her friends that she was praying for, that they would come to find full life in Jesus. And when I saw this, I decided I'm going to start praying for my friends too. I was in high school at the time, so I used my yearbook like a guide. And before bed at night or in the morning before school, I'd pray for a few rows of faces looking at each photo. And it makes me think about my friend Jared. Jared and I were on the school tennis team, and we always ended up in conversations about faith and God, and so I started praying for him every day too. And I remember after a few months, he came to school one day and something had totally shifted in his heart. That day, one of my best friends, Jared, started following Jesus. and his life has never been the same since.
That's why it's so important for us to pray for others. But we should also pray for ourselves. The early Christians prayed for boldness in the face of opposition. You may not face physical opposition like they did, and like many Christians around the world today do, but you may face opposition in other ways. People may insult you or maybe laugh at you. You can pray for the courage and love and power that you need to continue to tell others the good news.
They should have a positive impact on how they helped people that were less fortunate than they are.
Love and grace and compassion.
Giving back to society. I think Christians are doing too much preaching right now.
We should be loving, we should be kind, we should be approachable.
Love.
I think it should be to spread more love. Christians should be known for their forgiveness. They're very forgiving. They're very caring.
The Bible says to love thy neighbor. A lot of Christians don't do that exactly. If Christianity could start focusing more on the idea of it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you're still my neighbor.
I mean, they want to be known for following Christ, right?
Well, follow Christ.
Yeah, we're back on. So what do you guys reckon? What should the impact of Christians be in society? Ever thought about it? It's a hard one, so Abby's getting, so you go first, Joel. And Joel goes, yes, dear.
Every time I take the mic.
Do you want to have a think?
Yeah.
Does Abby need to think?
I had something in my head when they were talking, and
now it's gone.
now it's gone.
It's hard, isn't it? You know
This
what?
is a hard
Let
question.
me. I've got one.
you're good,
I've got
right?
one. It's all good. You just can't see it real well. You know, I know that for me, as the minister of the church, I'm really genuinely proud of this church. I think it's great people, and this college is a great school. And part of what my desire is that the community of Glasshouse, because I use that because it's bigger than just beer wall, but the community is better because we're part of that community. And my prayer is that people's lives will be better because they've known me, not because I want to be better, but because somehow they'll go, it is Jesus that has worked through me and through the church, and that's made everything better. And I would like to think that Jesus calls Christians salt and light, and I'd like to think that that's actually how it works. That, you know, like the community, because we take our faith in Jesus seriously, we do help people. We do. It's just a better place to be. People often don't get that until such time that the Christians withdraw. But even then, sometimes they really don't want Christians around, and they go, we'd much rather have the bad stuff than have Christians around there. Like, Sen used to work for a mission, and they would come and they'd say, look, we want to do a program like, say, dig a well, and we want to get involved, but we also want to we're not going to Bible bash you, but we want to be free to talk about our faith. And oftentimes the leaders of the village go, no thanks, we don't want that. So they give up a well and hospital and stuff like that, purely on the basis that, no, we don't want to hear about Jesus. That's their choice, but sometimes that's what happens. And it's not a quid pro quo thing. It's not tit for tat, we'll do this. They just wanted the freedom to do it because they wanted to say, we're doing this because we love Jesus and we want you guys to know that. That's all we want to say. But still, and so for me, that's my hope, that throughout us being here in town, that people will go, hey, we've made the place better, not because of us, but because Jesus has worked in us and he tells us to be light and salt. So I'd like to think that's true.
Yeah, well, one thing that I really think is if you are just people actually come up to you if they think you are different, as in if you are being kind to them and just stuff like that, it actually does impact and show something. Like if you are I don't know where I was going. You take the
I don't know where she was going either.
Over there somewhere, I think, Joel. They did a survey, a study, a sociological study, and the guy that wrote the article compared 2 African countries. And one was French Ghana, and one was something like Zimbabwe or something like that. I've got the wrong countries, I know that, but it was something like that. And he said, if you go to the university, in this article, he said, if you go to the countries that were colonised by the French, that you'd go, there were no books in the library shelves. There were very people at university. Whereas you go to this other country, and it was at the time a very prosperous nation. And he said, they're next door to each other, they're neighbours. So what made the difference? And so he starts doing the research, and he discovered that what happened was that when the French came and they colonised, with apologies to the French, they saw them as slaves and as people to be oppressed, as did the English. But the English also brought with them Christians, and the Christians went to fight for the locals. And so the Christians were the ones who said, hey, these guys need medical care. These guys need to be able to learn to read and to write, and that they would be, the Christians led the charge back when they were writing back to the Parliament in Europe going, in Britain saying, guys, you need to take care of these people because these people were made in the image of God. And so the Christians actually were the agitators for the society. And to this day, he said, the guy in the article said, that's why this culture is where it is because of the involvement of the missionaries in the 19th century. You guys wouldn't even know the fall of Poland back, I don't know how long ago it was, 20, 30 years ago. It was led by Christians actually protesting against the government quietly. Martin Luther King, Black Lives Matter, he said, let's address this, but let's do this Christianly out of deep convictions. So over the years, as Christians have stood up for their faith and stood up for social issues, but not in a way that they're sort of let's railroad people, but they did it in a Christian way. It's really impacted and transformed society. She mentioned William Booth, who was the leader of the founder of the Salvation Army. Same sort of thing. So Christians have had a deep and profound impact in society, but society doesn't often recognise it. But that's okay, because we're not here to score brownie points, we're here to serve Jesus. Yeah. So the session talks about sharing the gospel is done through both words and loving actions. What does that mean for you?
Honestly, blank-minded at the
Blank
moment.
mind. Have you seen it? Have any of you guys ever something happened to you where you go, gee, that person's been kind to me. I wonder what's going on. Has that ever happened? Or am I just blank?
Yeah, I feel like I've had this experience one time where actually someone met Jasmine, and then they come up to me and they're like, what's her deal? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, she can't really be that nice, can she? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they would just because of who she is and what she believes, they could just see like how nice she is because she's a very nice person. And it was just like a very bizarre thing for someone to actually then say it back to me.
Yeah.
Like, if you get what I mean?
I know what you mean. We had a guy at school called Peter Crawford, and I went to an all-boys school, and no one ever heard Peter Crawford swear. In the 6 years that I knew him, I don't think I ever heard a swear word come out of his mouth. And people said to me once, what's going on with Crawford? Why doesn't he swear? And it was because he was a Christian, and he took his faith really seriously. And people look, they may not comment, but people actually look and they make a value judgment about who we are based upon our actions. Yeah. Have we got another video, or is that it? That's the end. Oh, wait, we're having a debate here. There's one more video? All right, we've got the closing video. How about we have the closing video then, eh?
It's safe to say that when Ben's dad, Bob, was a teenager in the 1960s, he was not a follower of Jesus, and attending church was the furthest thing from his mind. One day, after having smoked a lot of marijuana together, Bob and his friend Crazy Dave decided to hitchhike out of town and see where the road took them. Within minutes, they got lucky and were picked up by two other young guys also heading out on an adventure. They were all smiles. But Bob and Crazy Dave weren't prepared for what came next. After a few minutes, the guy driving began to talk to them about God, explaining to them how God created all things perfectly, but how then it all got broken. Then his buddy joined in, telling Bob and Dave how God sent his only son, Jesus, on the greatest rescue mission ever to save people from the brokenness. The four of them talked for 2 hours until they came to a crossroads, and it was time for the travellers to part ways. When Bob and Dave got out of the car, Dave burst out laughing. What on earth were they talking about? And they call me crazy. But Bob just smiled, because he thought it was quite simply the most beautiful thing he had ever heard. Not long after, Bob came to another crossroads, this time in his heart. He decided he wanted to follow Jesus, and that day, he began a relationship with God. To this day, he remembers those two kind strangers and how they drove away, never knowing if their words had any effect, never knowing the difference they had made in his life and in the generations to come after him.
Whenever you tell people about Jesus, it has an impact. So don't give up, because the gospel is the power of God.
And so you could take that step and start telling others. If you do, you will face challenges, but you'll also experience the joy of seeing others discover faith in Jesus.
I can't think of anything that makes a greater difference to a person's life than encountering Jesus Christ. Okay, you rolling? Okay, we're gonna scare Jason with this spider. Come on, I'm gonna get him back. Watch it! Guys, this is a film set. You gotta... Okay. Did you guys get that?
Thank you for coming onto the couch.
Oh, thank you for having us.
What was your experience like?
It's quite it's quite interesting.
Right, interesting, was it?
Yeah. Oh.
It was good. We're a bit of awkward people, so sorry for that. But yeah, it was really good. And it definitely got me out of my comfort zone as well. So
That's what we want.
And made me a little bit embarrassed, but that's okay.
That's all right. Can I tell you, the easiest thing, we talked about telling people about Jesus, you know, the simplest and the easiest thing, and the thing that came through all, time and time again, was to invite people to church. You know, like that's how you started getting it, because Abby invited you to church. You know, that's how a few people, that woman that was the clubber, got converted. So yeah, so that's the simplest. Invite them to church or to youth group or something like that, and yeah, take it from there. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Next week, Isaiah is back. I don't know what's happening next week, but Isaiah will tell me. There's a very good chance, or there's not a very good chance, there is a possibility that we actually might be doing it completely live. But stay tuned, we'll let you know. Matthew's shocked and surprised. But by the 19th, we'll definitely be back doing normal stuff. But what we're doing next week, we're not 100% sure. But we think we're going to try to get it a bit more liver than we're doing. So again, thanks for joining us, and thank you guys for coming in. And thanks to our audience for coming in as well, guys. Thank you very much. Well done. Have a great week, everyone, won't you?
Stay tuned.
feet. It's like I know where I need to be, but I can't figure out, yeah, I can't figure out just how much air I will need to breathe when your tide rushes over me. There's only one way to figure out, but will you let me drown? Yeah, will you let me drown? Hey now, this is my desire, consume me like a fire, 'cause I just want something beautiful to touch me. I know that I'm married, 'cause I am down on my knees and waiting for something beautiful. And the water is rising quick, and for years I was scared of it. We can't be sure when it will subside, so I won't leave your side. No, I can't leave your side. Hey now, this is my desire, consume me like a fire, 'cause I just want something beautiful to touch me. I know that I'm married, 'cause I am down on my knees and waiting for something beautiful. In a daydream, I couldn't live like this. I wouldn't stop until I found something beautiful. But when I wake up, and all I want I have, you know it's still not what I need. Something beautiful. Hey now, this is my desire, consume me like a fire, 'cause I just want something beautiful to touch me. I know that I'm in reach, 'cause I am down on my knees and waiting for something beautiful. Something beautiful. Something beautiful. Everybody has trial and temptation. Everybody knows heartbreak, isolation. But we can lay our burdens down. Lay our burdens down. What a friend we have in Jesus. East to west, my sins are gone. I see grace on every horizon, and forever and ever His heart is my home. Everybody has fears, everybody got worry. Everybody knows sorrow, devastation. But we can lay our burdens down. Lay our burdens down. What a friend we have in Jesus. East to west, my sins are gone. stars are doing so little time. It's a crazy life. It's ready, set, go. It's another wild day when the stress is on the rise. In my heart I feel you say, just breathe, just breathe. Come and rest at my feet and be, just be. Chaos calls, but all you really need is to just breathe. Third cup of Joe just to get me through the day. Wanna make the most of time, but I feel it slip away. I wonder if there's something more to this crazy life. I'm busy, 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 and it's no surprise to see that I only have time for me, me, me. There's gotta be something more to this crazy life. I'm hanging on tight to another wild day when it starts to fall apart. In my heart I hear you say, just breathe, just breathe. Come and rest at my feet and be, just be. Chaos calls, but all you really need is to take it in, feel your lungs, the peace of God that overcomes. Just breathe, just breathe. Let your weary spirit rest, lay down what's good and find what's best. Just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. Come and rest at my feet and be, just be. Chaos calls, but all you really need is to just breathe. Just breathe. There's got to be more than going back and forth, from doing right to doing wrong. 'Cause we were taught that's who we are. Well, come on, get in line right behind me. You along with everybody, thinking there's worth in what you do. Then like a hero takes the stage when we're on the edge of our seat, saying it's too late. Well, let me introduce you to amazing grace. No matter the bumps, no matter the bruises, no matter the scars, still the truth is the cross has made, the cross has made you flawless. The cross has made you flawless. No matter the hurt or how deep the wound is, no matter the pain, still the truth is the cross has made, the cross has made you flawless. Could it possibly be that we simply can't believe that this unconditional kind of love would be enough to take a filthy wretch like this and wrap him up in righteousness? But that's exactly what he did. No matter the bumps, no matter the bruises, no matter the scars, still the truth is the cross has made, the cross has made you flawless. Has made you flawless. No matter the hurt or how deep the wound is, no matter introduce you to grace, grace, God's grace. No matter the bumps, no matter the bruises, no matter the scar, still the truth is the cross has made, the cross has made you flawless, has made you flawless. And no matter the hurt or how deep the wound is, no matter the pain, still the truth is the cross has made, the cross has made you, the cross has made you flawless. No matter what they say or what you think you are, the day you call his name, he made you flawless. He made you How did we get here? What comes the way on a lonely shore? I can see in your eyes, dear. It's hard to take for a moment more. We've got to burn the ships, cut the ties, send a flare into the night. Say a prayer, turn the tide, dry your tears and wave goodbye. Step into a new day. We can rise up from the dust and walk away. We can dance upon the heart, yeah. So light a match, leave the past, burn the ships, and don't you look back. Don't let it arrest you. This fear of falling again. And if you need a refuge, I will be right here until the end. Oh, it's time to burn the ships, cut the ties, send a flare into the night. Say a prayer, turn the tide, dry your tears and wave goodbye. Step into a new day. We can rise up from the dust and walk away. We can dance upon the heart, yeah. So light a match, leave the past, burn the ships, and don't you look back. So long to shame, walk through the sorrow, out of the fire, into tomorrow. So flush the pills, face the fear, feel the weight disappear. We're coming clean, we're born again. Our hopeful lungs can breathe again. Oh, we can breathe again. Step into a new day. We can rise up from the dust and walk away. We can dance upon the heart. don't think you need to settle for a substitute when I'm the only love that changes you. And I am for you. I'm not against you. I am for you. I'm not against you. If you wanna know how far my love can go, just how deep, just how wide. If you wanna see how much you mean to me, look at my hands, look at my side. If you could count the times I say you are forgiven, it's more than the drops in the ocean. Open your heart, it's time that we start again. Open your heart, it's time that we start again. If you wanna know how far my love can go, just how deep, just how wide. If you wanna see how much you mean to me, look at my hands, look at my side. If you could count the times I say you are forgiven, it's more than the drops in the ocean. The drops in the ocean. I am for you. I'm not against you. I am for you. I'm not against you.
Why you ever chose me has always been a mystery. All my life I've been told I belong at the end of the line, with all the other not quite, with all that never get it right. But it turns out they're the ones you were looking for all this time. 'Cause I'm just a nobody, trying to tell everybody all about somebody who saved my soul. Ever since you rescued me, you gave my heart a song to sing. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus.
Moses had stage fright, and David brought a rock to a sword fight. You picked 12 outsiders nobody would have chosen, and you changed the world. Well, the moral of the story is everybody's got a purpose. So when I hear that devil start talking to me, saying, who do you think you are? I say, I'm just a nobody, trying to tell everybody all about somebody who saved my soul. Ever since you rescued me, you gave my heart a song to sing. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus.
So let me go down, down, down in history as another blood-bought, faithful member of the family. And if they all forget my name, well, that's fine with me. I'm living for the world to see, nobody but Jesus.